Hey guys, my name is Marcus, and today we're going to be looking at one of my favorite Filipino dishes, sisig. I haven't really showcased a lot of Asian food, or let alone Filipino food, which is food from my heritage, on my Instagram or YouTube. So when I decided I wanted to make this video, I knew that it had to be sisig. So what is sisig? Sisig is a popular Filipino dish that came from the city of Pampanga, which is the culinary capital of the Philippines. The dish was originally an appetizer made from boiled pig face and soaked in vinegar with onions and chilies, and was often eaten alongside an ice-cold beer. The sour flavors of the dish is what gives it its name, since it comes from the word sisigan, which means to make sour. Today, many places serve sisig as a meal that's grilled and sautéed and served on a sizzling hot plate alongside some rice. The evolution of this dish has turned it into a popular entree across the Philippines and is even making its way into the States. So like I said, traditionally, sisig is made with like the face of the pig. So think about the ears, the cheeks. Those pieces are usually really thick or have a lot of cartilage, and they need to be boiled so that they're not too tough. So sisig is usually cooked in three ways. The first is boiling, and then grilling, and then sautéing for the finish. But since we have these thin pieces of pork belly here, we don't need to boil them because they'll be cooked fully through the grilling process. The first step we're gonna do is to do the grilling section of the cooking. I have a charcoal grill here, so to prepare your grill, I'm just gonna take the charcoal out of the bag and put them in the chimney. The cylinder shape of a chimney keeps the fire centered in one area, meaning that the charcoals can burn hotter and faster. Here I have my butane burner, my little flamethrower. I'm just gonna light these coals so they can catch on fire. I have some easy light coals, so I don't need to use any paper towels or lighter fluid to get this started. While the coals are burning in the background, we can take this time to season our pork. All I'm gonna do is just put a little salt and pepper on it. Make sure you get both sides because you want your food to be seasoned. There's not a lot of flavors that go into the dish other than the soy sauce and the vinegar and the chilies, so you wanna make sure that the meat is properly seasoned. There are many different versions of sisig, and some people even deep fry their pork to help with the crispiness. But I wanted to use the grill for this recipe because of the unmistakable char flavor you get when using a real grill, and to take it back to the more traditional versions of sisig. Plus, nothing beats going outside on a nice day and barbecuing a meal to serve to friends and family. The prep for this dish is very easy. The only things we're really cutting up is the red onion, the chilies, and the pork. So for the red onions, it's just a simple dice, and for the chilies, I have a fairly low spice tolerance, so I'm gonna de-seed them. You do this by cutting them in half, and with the back of your knife, scrape out the seeds and ribs. This makes the chilies a lot less spicier, but you still get that nice fresh flavor and kind of that kick when you take a bite of one of the fresh chilies. If you like a little bit more spice, you can definitely leave the seeds in or just add more chilies to make it spicier. Lastly, we're gonna cut up the pork. So I just do a simple dice here. You can make them as big or as small as you want them. The smaller they get, the crispier they'll be. So now we're getting into the flavors that make sisig taste like sisig. Here I have some toyamansi, which is basically soy sauce with some calamansi. You want about 1.5 tablespoons here for about a pound of pork, and same thing, equal parts vinegar, 1.5 tablespoons of vinegar. Now that everything is prepped, we can bring everything together. In a smoking hot pan, we add our pork just long enough for some of the bits to crisp up. Once they're nice and brown, we can add in our vinegar and soy sauce. You're able to really smell the acidity of the vinegar and the soy sauce, and these vapors just make your whole entire kitchen smell so good. Here we add in our chopped up chilies. This allows the spice to get distributed around the dish and also brings down the heat of the chilies just a little bit. While that's done cooking, we're gonna take out our pork and put it in a separate bowl. This is the time where you would get your sizzling plate or your cast iron and put it on the stove to make sure it gets nice and smoking hot. Adding the onions to the end of the dish instead of cooking them allows them to keep their crunchy texture and fresh bite. We're also gonna add about 3 tablespoons of mayo here. It's definitely not traditional, but it's become more and more popular in modern interpretations because of the creaminess it adds to the dish, and I just think Filipinos like mayo. Once everything's mixed in, we're gonna add this mixture to a smoking hot pan so that it can crisp up on the bottom once more. You definitely don't want to touch it here because the mayo can melt and turn into oil, and the bottom can get nice and crispy. Alright, so we are done. Sisig is done. You just serve it like this on a little sizzling plate. I don't have a sizzling plate, so you just have this cast iron here. Make a little well. You crack fresh egg. Put this here. So this is it. This is modernized sizzling plate sisig. You can see they have like the red onions, the chili. I don't know if you guys actually see it. Red onions, the chilies. Then you take fresh calamansi. You just squeeze it over. And this is how a lot of people serve sisig nowadays. Let's try it. That's so good. You get like the little umami from the soy sauce and the vinegar, the acid, and then topped with the calamansi with like a little bit of sweetness. The mayo kind of melted a bit there, which I would have liked it if it was a little bit thicker, but it's still really good. And the red onion is one of my favorite parts of the sisig because it gives it that little like freshness, that crunch. Overall, I think it's pretty good sisig. It's definitely not up to Gilligan's. My family owns a restaurant in the Philippines called Gilligan's, and they serve like a crazy good sisig. Super crispy, creamy from the mayo. It's literally everything that I look for in a sisig. It doesn't match up quite to that, but this is definitely one of my favorite sisigs that I've tried here in California for sure. The egg in there adds a perfect, like, also kind of creaminess. I mean, who doesn't like a fried egg cracked over anything? And the chilies that we cut up a while ago, it adds like a perfect amount of spice, not too spicy because we took out the seeds, but it does add that like spicy flavor and freshness because they're fresh chilies rather than dried chilies like red pepper flakes or anything like that. Overall, it's such a really well composed dish with the acid, the umami, the salty, sweet from the calamansi, and it just reminds me of my childhood. Alright, so I'm gonna go heat up some rice and finish the rest of this sisig. But thank you so much for watching and make it to the end of the video. I appreciate each and every one of you guys, and I'll see you on the next one.